Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. The Stavros Niarchos Foundation completes 20 years of action. Well, we are becoming adults. This is the best location we could choose for this event. In these 20 years, we grew up, we matured internally concerning our internal structure, but also concerning our action. 3,600 donations in various countries, smaller, larger, all very important for the philosophy of the foundation, reflecting the respect of the foundation. Of course, it wouldn't mean anything to dwell on the donations one by one. The brochure is at your disposal. However, what we're going to attempt today is to engage in an open discussion with our colleagues from the donation department. We'd like to give you a sneak peek in our internal proceedings to talk about our incentives, our motivation, and of course we are open to answer questions from you. Let me now give the floor to Mr. Andreas Drakopoulos, the President of the Foundation. Hello, as Lenia said, well, first of all, thank you very much for coming. Would like to share with you an overview of our life and an idea of the internal proceedings of the foundation in the last 20 years. Our founder, Stavros Niarchos, died in 1996. Actually, this is the date of the launch of the foundation. We are active in 4 areas: art, health, culture, and social welfare. And of course, I will dwell on each of these 4 a bit later. One of our fundamental principles here is that it is our duty to help. Thanks to our founder, we have the resources, the financial resources, to do so. And we try to do so in the most appropriate way, the right way, over time, in order to bring about desired results. We receive very many requests for help, and we try to cope in the most appropriate manner. We always reply. Actually, we donate to partners. That's how we see them. That's how we see each and every project. For us, there are 2 questions. First, whether our donation will mean something to our society, and second, whether the people who manage the donation are consistent, honest people, capable people, and whether there is a vision in common with them. So what I would like to say at this point, it may sound a bit funny, but it has become an internal joke. As Lenia said, we are going to allow you to look into our internal life. We prefer to be naive than arrogant. Well, this is our motto on a daily basis. We would rather give something more than strictly needed, but what we wouldn't like to do is to reject something without proper grounds. We try to do the right thing at all times. We have committed errors, yes, of course. We all make mistakes, but we try to cope in the context, of course, in the framework of our financial capabilities. Also, we do not substitute ourselves into the role of the state, for example. We try to help. We are a complement. Well, we just turned 20. As Lenia said, we have made more than 3,600 donations in 111 countries. That's about $2 billion, and life goes on, of course. For obvious reasons, our main focus is Greece. There are donations one after another in Greece. And of course, let us not forget about the landmark in where we are today, the cultural center, our largest donation, on which I will dwell briefly later. We decided to launch this project before the onset of the crisis, and of course we were greatly concerned, you understand, after the onset of the crisis. Should we continue or not? We discussed it at length, but we decided to carry on because we believe in this country, we believe in its people, we believe that we have a duty to offer hope and vision to our country and to its young people. At the same time, we undertook 3 more initiatives in order to provide relief to our society in crisis. We try to help the youth, and we carry on with more and more donations. The emphasis is at all times with vulnerable groups in our society, to the young people of this country, to the youth. So my team, my partners from the donations department are here. Stelios Vasilakis is the general manager, and we have the donation managers. They will give you a few examples of what we have done. And we have done quite a lot. We have implemented larger and smaller projects. Sometimes the smaller ones are even more so important. Today we're going to announce a donation to the International Rescue Committee. It's a very recent donation concerning the support of programs dealing with humanitarian emergencies, including the refugee crisis. This also involves Greece, since the phenomenon also affects Greece. Whenever we make a donation, as I said, we see the receivers as partners. We ask for nothing in return. We just ask for proper management, proper stance, because it's not just about the money. But let me come to the cultural center, say a few words, and then Stelios and our team will dwell further on specific donations. The cultural center, I think it was in June, well, since June, has won an objective that the center will be embraced by the people. It will be nothing without the people. So in just 1 month, we received 120,000 people, and this means that we won. Now we have set ourselves a wider objective for the entire Greece to embrace the cultural center. And of course, people look at the building and say, well, what a nice building, it works perfectly. Our point is that that's how entire Greece should be working and functioning. A lot of money was, of course, involved, but hard work was also involved. And this also involved great partnerships with Greeks and foreigners alike. That's how Greece should be operating in general. As I have said in the past, the biggest thank you came from an 8-year-old boy who said, "Thank you." I said, "Do we know each other?" No. The boy said, "I just want to say thank you." We're going to hand over this to the Hellenic Republic, to the Greek state. The Greek state is not just the government, it's the Greek people. Well, we will be here. We'll stand by the Greek state if necessary. We have engaged in various discussions and negotiations with this and the past governments. This good climate of cooperation. You understand the cultural center stands over and above parties. I have also talked to the chief of the main opposition political party. You understand we need a continuous public-private partnership. This project from the 1st of January 2017 will be handed over entirely to the Greek state. We're here at the National Library. The Greek National Opera is next door. Two cultural pillars of education and culture for this country. Education and culture. This is what we need to embrace, because one of the main reasons why we are in this crisis is that there's a problem both with education and culture. Our civilization in general, I would say, in the wider sense of the term. We can help, therefore, we can continue to implement various activities, the monthly activities that are already in progress, and this can continue even after the handover to the Greek state. So we will keep engaging with various activities, financing 100% the required budget until various other agencies can fully engage in the cultural center. But this will be in 2017. We'll also contribute to the state budget concerning the operation of the center. And once again, let me stress the importance of hard work and cooperation between the public and the private sectors. We need both, but we more than ever, we need the people. We need you. The owners is not the government. We must try to forget about governments. No, the project belongs to you. So we are here, we are open, we can ask anything, we'll try to answer everything, and the time has come for Stelios, I think, or Dimitris. Dimitris first. Dimitris Protopsaltou will say a few words on the cultural center, and then Stelios will dwell on donations. Thank you.
Good morning, and I'd like to bid you welcome to the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Cultural Center. My presentation is entitled 80 Days of Operation for the Cultural Center. We started the operation on August 16. It was a Tuesday, I remember. We opened at 6 in the morning, and ever since that time, we open the center at 6 o'clock in the morning, and we close it at 12 midnight. That is 18 hours a day, every single day. Tomorrow we'll be completing the first 80 days of operation, and what I shall try to share with you is a story that could be entitled Around the Cultural Center World in 80 Days. Please allow me the metaphor in the same way as Jules Verne wrote about the bet of Phileas Fogg. What I would like to present here today is the bet placed by the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Cultural Center together with the Greek state. We've already won, it seems, having completed 80 days of field operation. My presentation today will follow the route followed by the 35,000 visitors that come every single week to visit the cultural center. This is a great number of people, in fact, and believe me, the number can truly grow in the sense that the potential of the center is enormous. On one hand, we have great potential. On the other hand, the size of this public has raised the standard considerably in what concerns visitor experience and catering for the needs of the public. So what are these 35,000 people? What do they do here, in fact? They pertain to all age groups and capacities. They're young children, students, parents, families, elderly people, tourists, people with a physical disability, visitors that come to run, visitors that come with their pets, cultural organizations, NGOs, among other groups. These visitors mainly come by car, as we have observed. Most of them use the parking place. We have a parking place with a capacity of 1,000 parking places. In the first period, it will be for free. All weekends after August, the parking has been full to capacity. That is, on a weekly basis, we accommodate 4.5 to 5,000 cars. They also come here by bus. They use public transport and a shuttle bus. which is a service offered by the center. It starts from the fixed station, and people board the shuttle bus there, and the shuttle bus brings them here. And now to make a small announcement to everyone. We've extended the shuttle bus, and we've added the Syntagma stop, Constitution Square stop, to whoever wishes to visit the cultural center. This is for free. It is a free ride from the center of Athens to the center, and please convey the message. Spread it for us to have more visitors. Of course, we also have visiting cyclists. We've been preparing a new service, especially targeting people with bicycles, and we'll talk about it in the future. We also have visitors that come on foot, and the ones we've observed coming here again and again are people living in the vicinity, that is, people from Kalithea, Neasmini, and Paleophalliro municipalities. Please allow me to share with you a little story that I experienced a month ago when I visited the municipality center of Kalithea because we needed a certificate. So the employee looked at me, looked at the papers, and he said, "Are you coming from the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Cultural Center?" I said, "Yes." He looked puzzled, and he said, "Look, if you want another certificate, you can call us and we'll bring the center to you. You needn't come here and visit us." What happened in Kalithea was truly a lottery, if you wish, that we won. Because he said, "I've been living in the municipality of Kalithea since the 1960s, and I could never have believed that we'd see the day of such a great investment for us and our children." Let's say a few things about schools and the cultural center. Every morning, hundreds of students living in the region of Attica and coming from beyond deluge the park. Our facilitators welcome the children and they guide them around in a creative manner. We have workshops every morning. We welcome 6 different classes, and we've been receiving such positive messages that by the end of the year, we'll have all visiting hours fully reserved. With the group responsible for school visits, we've developed a lot of programs that address all classes and all age groups of students, from kindergarten to senior high. What do little children from kindergarten do when they come, or when they are first grade or second grade students? What do? We acquaint them with the flora of the park, and we inculcate in them the principle of sustainability of environment. Now let us go to our services and the monthly calendar of events. Every month since August, we've been publishing a wealth of educational events and activities. Since August 16 and up until today, we've created 1,064 events. And for November, we recently launched the program comprising 532 events. Soon, we'll publish the December agenda with the Christmas events. Let us say something very important, because what we've said up to now and what I'm going to say and what you'll see afterwards, entrance to all events and all activities held in the cultural center is for free, and there's always a priority strictly abided by. What we've been experiencing throughout the past 80 days is indeed a marathon of programming. We start with the guided tours, and every week we guide 1,200 different people. So 1,200 different people every week get acquainted to every nook and cranny of the park. Activities targeting children, well-being activities, workshops and lectures for adults, yoga in the park, Pilates, canoeing, kayak, concerts, lots of concerts, and cinema as well, lots of films. We had cinema activities in August, September, October, and we shall go on in November and December. And now that it's getting chillier, we give people blankets, as you see. These are but a few of the proposals available every month, because we want to generate as much experience as possible in the center. We want to cultivate the culture of a park as a way of life. We need to have the visitor experience at the core of our philosophy. I'd like to make mention to our digital services, the free Wi-Fi throughout the buildings and the park. All of you having a mobile device can connect an FCC-free Wi-Fi, SNFCC-free Wi-Fi. And we also have computers installed on the ground floor. I trust that you've seen it entering this room. And all visitors can be connected either through our fixed computers or using their own mobile devices, and use the SNFCC network and have access to a huge database, electronic newspapers and publications from all over the world. This week we started offering introductory courses of familiarization with PCs. We've started supporting people in order to bridge the digital gap. That is, we've been showing them what a computer is, how we enter the net, and so on and so forth, and a lot is yet to come. Let me say a few words about important partnerships. The partnership with the Anagenesis and Progress NGO, Mr. Kouloubaris group, that supports us with ideas and programs for sports and well-being, bringing this outdoor culture in our midst, and the collaboration with the National Gallery, the exhibition that we accommodate in the Lighthouse with the works of Morelis and Capralos, an amazing exhibition. Every week, 18,000 people visit the exhibition area. If you are to analyze that, break it down, this means that every single minute a person gets the opportunity to see a work of Morelis and Capralos. Partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. At the core of our philosophy, the message conveyed by the group of the Cultural Center is that we go on with increasing impetus. I trust that you all have been given the events for November, and I'm sure that we'll see you in the next few days here. But apart from the events and the different services we offer, important work is also done concerning the preparation of the Cultural Center to accommodate in this venue the National Greek Opera and the National Bank of Greece. And of course, we've been preparing to hand it over to the Greek state. In 2017, we'll have the relocation year, as we call it. But there'll be a meeting by the responsible committee at noon, and they'll give you more information if you so wish. I'd like to make an important announcement. Today, we have the relaunching of the member program that had opened for 4 days in June. Regarding the metamorphosis events, we had 42,000 registered new members. Today it's opening again, and you can register, you can become a member. You can get more information visiting the website of the SNFCC, and during the meeting of the committee, Mrs. Eli Andriopoulou will make specific mention to the program. This was visiting the center, going around the center in 80 days. We won the bet with the operation of the cultural center by the fact that it was fully embraced by the people, and it was awarded with important distinctions. Our work has been awarded two of the greatest distinctions in the world, one for sustainable development, LEED Platinum, and the other one for safety in construction, Merit International Safety Award. And 2 weeks ago, we got the title of the best project in the world in the field of culture for 2016 from the American Engineering News Record. And now at the end, I'd like to show you a video that we've prepared with pictures and sounds from this first journey around the SNFCC in 80 days. I hope you like it. Thank you very much.
Well, at this point, we are ready to carry on with an open, relaxed conversation concerning our internal life. Let me introduce Anna Maria Kosmoglou, Aristis Stathakopoulos, Christos Katharios, Stelios Vasilakis, the General Manager of Programs and Strategy, Eva Polizopoulou, Panos Papoulias, Myrto Xanthopoulou, and Iona Kiose. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. This is an honor for us. How can you make a summary of 20 years of life around the globe? How can you reflect the depth and the impact of more than 3,600 donations in 111 countries around the globe? How can you explain the substance of what we do as a philanthropic organization dedicated to contribute to the common good, to supporting those in need? How can you do that without giving the impression that we are boasting or bragging? This interview, this press conference, is not the usual press conference. Well, normally a team like ours would just present a series of initiatives. However, this approach would consist in simple information about what we do. It would be a dry presentation of operations, while what we need to explain here today is to explain why. Why do we engage in donations? How do we approve this or that donation, etc.? This is the reason why, instead of a linear presentation, if you will, we selected a more interactive approach, dialogue, dialogos, in the hope that we will offer analysis and reflection. I'll try to explain briefly the philosophy governing the foundation. I will say a few words about our department, how we evaluate proposals, how we set priorities, and then I will give the floor to my colleagues to present a short selection of donations in the hope that this will give you an idea of how we operate as a foundation, but also about how we engage in our work. There are a few specific rules in our work, but at the end of the day, everything is about human relations. We're talking about people. Both grantors and grantees are people. The heart of this foundation is our department. My colleagues, the team you see here, are the people who have evaluated and implemented thousands of donations in the 20 years of our history. So you cannot just forget about the people, their character, their ethos. This is what makes our work on a daily basis. These are the people who occupy very important positions, because these are the people who are in power in a position of strength, but they are here to help. Well, the audience is mainly Greek here today. I suppose you are familiar, or mostly familiar, with the donations in Greece. However, the foundation has an international aspect. We have offered donations, as I said earlier, in 111 countries. And I would like to keep stressing this very important aspect of our action. There are many important foundations worldwide with humanitarian activity. However, we are among the very few, I believe, who are so diverse, who donate in so many different countries. We are in touch with each and every single corner on the planet. So how do we go about evaluation of requests? How do we donate? How do we achieve the perfect trade-off in our decision making? What should we support? What we should not support? What are the criteria? What is the procedure of our decision making? Is it an art or science? Can it be based on measurement, on scientific evidence, on some modeling, impact measurement, impact evaluation, etc., etc.? How do we, the coordinators, protect it or defend, if you will, ourselves from the feeling of being in a position of strength, in which we are by definition, because we are those who finance donations? How do we protect ourselves from complacency, from risk aversion? How do we never forget that we are there to help? And how do we check whether this or that foundation has the capabilities to properly manage our financing? Are we in a position to clearly see what is urgent and what is less urgent? Are we ready to take risks? Are we ready to fail? How flexible are we as an organization? How ready are we to change our targeting depending on developments nationally and internationally? What is very important, I think, here is to be able to start on the premise that making donations means the ability to change lives. This simple reality should be accompanied by full awareness of the ethical implications of our decisions. As an open foundation receiving many requests, we have to evaluate a huge number of requests on a daily basis. Some may see that as a blessing, some others as a curse. There's no doubt, though, that this is a huge workload. Well, we see that as a blessing. We have met, we have known and supported great initiatives that we would never known without this open application procedure. As managers of donations, we are also very well aware of the temptation of becoming arrogant. So we are vigilant and we try to defend ourselves from this temptation. At the same time, we have adopted a philosophy, a stance, if you will. We understand that it's not why we say yes, but we try to understand why we say no, when we say no. And this, I must tell you, makes us proud. This is the guidance we have received from the board. So this is the philosophy of the foundation. We have to be very careful when we say no. The foundation has the ability to approve worldwide about 5% of all requests. This is the average, 5%, and this is the usual percentage with all similar foundations around the globe. It's 5%. So it's very easy to put something among the remaining 95%. You can take an easy decision. say this application does not tally with our rules, it is too far away, in a remote country, etc. It's easy to say no. Well, by imposing ourselves the obligation to justify our no makes us more responsible. And we have to be responsible because we are aware of the implications of a no. As I said, we are ready to take risks, we are ready to fail. The selection procedure has elements of science, but at the end of the day, it is an art. And at this point, let me say a few words on the cultural center for different reasons than the ones which made Mr. Drakopoulos and Mr. Potopsaltou talk about the center. The cultural center is the result of systematic efforts, architectural and others, to restore, to revive the concept of agora as an open, accessible space where citizens have the possibility to meet, to form communities, to discuss, to engage in dialogue. Agora. An agora enhancing citizens. Citizens who can engage in a community. The design of the center by Renzo Piano, in combination with our programming that attracts thousands of people every day here, all this reflects this very systematic effort. In view of the fragmentation of our societies, our effort is to put again together this fundamental concept of our culture, public space, the agora. And this is precisely what determines the philosophy, our philosophy, when we select our grantees. Let me try to explain. As a non-profit humanitarian organization, we know that we finance public spaces. This may be schools, universities, hospitals, cultural organizations such as museums, senior homes, accommodation for homeless, hotspots, etc. All these agencies, all these organizations are, in essence, public spaces. So in this capacity, they are open and accessible. This is their main characteristic. They offer services, mostly to vulnerable groups. So most donations of the foundation are targeted to strengthening this concept of public space, as I just described it. Of course, we are under pressure. Reality exerts huge pressure on our work whenever we try to act reasonably. Well, this means that we have to try even harder to respond to current pressing emergency needs. The economic crisis in Greece is such an example. Most of you, I believe, are familiar with our initiatives, multifaceted initiatives in different directions, while Greece is still going through an economic and a social crisis. In 2012, we launched our first initiative for the crisis, 100 million euros. And in 2015, with the country in a deeper crisis, we launched our second initiative against the crisis with another 100 million euros. We have implemented these two initiatives at about 70%. So this is part of our daily activities. We are very well aware, even more so actually, of the impact of the crisis on our youth. We are very well aware of the unemployment percentage among the youth, exceeding 50%. So in 2013, we launched the Recharging the Youth initiative. I would like, at this point, to give the floor to my colleagues who will discuss our donations in a more targeted way. They will discuss specific donations, and this will give you an idea of our work and of our philosophy, our approach, while we evaluate requests. Christos, research centers, linear accelerators, two very important initiatives of the Foundation in Greece, two different initiatives. One is related to health, the other is related to education and research. These are donations that will bring about a huge benefit to our society, but at the same time, they are donations combined with risks. For example, we know the shortcomings in the field of health, and we know and we are concerned about how our donations may be at risk. So why do we do what we do? Well, research centers.
As you said, within the framework of the Recharging the Youth initiative, we sought sectors and themes that can bring about development and have an impact in job generation and maintenance. Research is such a domain, it's the par excellence domain. Every researcher position which is either generated or maintained, every single thing invested in research has an impact that can be multiplied, that is more jobs and a further economic impact. Without entering into much detail, this particular initiative is related to the generation or creation of more than 150 workplaces for young scientists and researchers. It aims at limiting a little bit the phenomenon of brain drain of Greek scientists abroad, brain drain. It goes without saying that the brain drain phenomenon will not be stopped or impeded altogether, because this is a phenomenon that we need to examine more generally as a society. However, it is a step towards the right direction. But apart from the workplaces, the initiative in research centers is related to the development of infrastructure, equipment, facilities, because research demands money and brings money. For you to have money, you need human resources and infrastructure. To a great extent, research in Greece has been based on state aids throughout the past few years. Greece is in the last positions in what concerns the GDP percentage invested in research is lower than 1%. In Europe, the average is 2%, and if we go to Israel or Japan, this percentage is double or threefold. On the other hand, research can and should be self-financed, so having infrastructure and fully capitalizing on this infrastructure is of paramount importance. The risk in this case is that, in effect, we finance some workplaces for 3 to 5 years, but we believe that in the present conjuncture, even this limited time is of great importance. And we also believe, and we've seen in practice, that within these 3 years or 5 years, we can have additional money from the market or competitive programs. And we've seen this, it happens indeed. So we take a calculated risk, and we believe that this is moving to the right direction. Now, in what concerns radio treatment and linear accelerators, perhaps this is the best donation of the Foundation to the country, following an initiative of the Foundation. In effect, we saw that there was a main deficit after making a survey throughout the country. This deficit is related to access to services, to a particular service pertinent to health, that is radiation treatment, and it also had to do with the quality of treatment. Both of them are directly related to the fact that we have obsolete equipment used. So we took this great initiative, this very big initiative of installing particular linear accelerators in 7 public hospitals, and in fact, we can say that the program has expanded and now will increase the 7 to 10 pieces of equipment in the 7 hospitals that we have announced. They are well known. The risk there is related to the fact that, as it so happens with every grant and donation, we have particular terms and conditions, and then in this case, we said we'd give the equipment provided that we had sufficient nursing staff. There was a long preparation period, and every hospital and the state in general needed to staff these departments with permanent or subsidiary personnel. Now we are in a pleasant position to see that this has happened to a major extent. The grant is moving forward, and in fact next week we'll have the installation of the first such facility or piece of equipment in Heraklion, Crete. Thank you very much. Refugee crisis, global crisis. Mirto, that has a very serious impact on a local level in Greece. The way in which we've been trying to mitigate or help, because one cannot manage this crisis alone, is multidimensional, I would say. We work together with small local organizations that have been doing great work, and they know things firsthand. And at the same time, we've had partnership with organizations like the International Rescue Committee. Today, we'll have the announcement of a very big donation, a grant to this particular organization for 5 years. A grant which is related in part to Greece. Of course, it couldn't be different. But at the same time, it enhances the efforts made by this organization on a global scale. This is a notable case and point showing how the foundation works on both a global and a local level. Would you like to tell us a few things about the way in which we have approached this issue?
It's very representative of how we deal with the nations. Well, the refugee crisis is a particular one. It has changed the way we operate, actually. We could talk about it for hours. This is an overwhelming phenomenon. We're talking about extremely vulnerable populations with multifaceted problems. So, in this environment, we try to keep up with developments. We try to focus on the most vulnerable populations. Irrespective of their legal status, irrespective of whether they are going to be relocated or not, etc. We have been very flexible. We have disbursed monies very swiftly to the relevant organization. This is also part of our financing. We also have witnessed a lot of complementarity, small with larger organizations. Well, you mentioned international organizations who deal with millions and millions of people, but organizations such as Doctors Without Frontiers, Médecins Sans Frontières. They are very important agencies who contribute to resolving the issue. But there are minor, smaller organizations from the civil society, and not only, who are very flexible and react very swiftly, such as Starfish. When in Molivos, in Lesbos, for example, they organized the local community when they had to face 6,000 or 7,000 people per day. They were admirable in their work in the interim until more experienced organizations engaged. And then another organization, Ye, Earth, they operated in Piraeus. The situation in Piraeus was very difficult. Some 5,000 people were blocked in Piraeus on a daily basis after the northern border of Greece was closed. It was a camp where there were almost no NGOs at the time, at least. The solidarity groups, of course, helped. Our foundation helped those people with the help of these small organizations. They're not experienced, they're not large, they're not international, but they provided great work. So this is what we supported. We supported these smaller organizations. Thank you. Swift reaction, flexible reaction is critical. It characterizes our work, the work of our foundation and our department in particular. Internationally, the situation changes rapidly. We keep facing crises that require swift action. And this is what we do. Of course, for this, we need to evaluate requests on the fly. We should try to act yesterday. This is related to human lives. We have to be there yesterday, as I say. But fortunately, this characterizes our work. We will take some time, of course, when it comes to more sophisticated, more important requests.
Very large and very significant grants for the creation of programs of modern Greek studies. This is an approach that is rather unusual. Usually we... Oh, sorry.
Well, 3 programs of Greek studies, very important, major grants, attracting people using an approach which is entirely different compared to what is usual. Most of the times we have a seat which is receiving a grant. The outcomes are important but limited. In this particular grant, we followed an entirely different approach. We started slowly and gradually. We tried universities, and then we went on to create very big programs and departments. Tell us a few things about the philosophy that guided us during this approach, and what are the results that we've seen up to now, if we can say something already. Well, I think that the easy answer that stems to mind immediately is that we are a foundation which is distinctly Greek. 50% of the grants need to be channeled to donations or grants here in Greece or of a Greek interest abroad. So this is easy indeed. However, the gist to this effort is different. Concerning education, what we always try to promote and what we're interested in effect, is to give people the opportunity, to give beneficiaries the opportunity to elaborate on their knowledge and to gain experience when we talk about Greeks, we do hope and trust that this knowledge and experience will come back to Greece, because now we need it more than ever, and all of us know that. At the same time, we examine the domain of universities. One would say that collaborating with some big, well-established universities is easier because they are familiar with the procedures, they have the organization, and that's a fact. This is true. But what we're interested in is whether they have a vision or not, whether they can actually support today, tomorrow, after a year, and much later than that, what they are proposing and what we want to help them realize. So, in effect, I would say that these are guidelines, always. A few examples. A few examples, starting with Canada, for instance. We supported scholarship programs for Greeks in 4 Canadian universities. We have also had a long collaboration with the Simon Fraser University. There too, we started, as Telio said, taking small steps, trial and error, and proceeding to bigger steps because there was success, and indeed we had an unexpectedly high success concerning what we had dreamed of and planned to begin with. Let me give you some numbers to have a rough idea. We started supporting a program for people to learn the Greek language. It started in 2003. In 2010, we had the first Center of Greek Studies established in this university. What they managed to do with the use of technology was to expand the program for Greek learning. At this moment, there are about 400 or 500 students inside the university, and it has expanded to China in collaboration with 20 universities, and we have 3,000 Chinese students who are interested in Greek, and they've been learning Greek and can learn it any moment they want to. And we do trust that the numbers will rise. In Yale, there exist 70 students every year. There we have a Greek studies center. We started supporting the effort in 2007. There we've been following a slightly different approach. There is a focus on social studies, not so much humanitarian studies as it happened with other programs abroad. This is an element that we also thought was special. What binds both, of course, what they have in common is technology. Universities abroad have managed to make leaps in progress in what concerns technology. And this gives the opportunity to many more students and adults to follow classes that otherwise wouldn't have been equally as accessible. Now to go to the other side, Turkey, Koç, and a younger university, not equally as established or recognized, although it's becoming more known and it has achieved higher rankings. What attracted us there was the student. We have a student-centered mentality. Classes function in a slightly different manner there. Does it have to do with time, says the speaker, making mention to a microphone, making a noise? Is it related to time? Have I spoken more than I should? Thank you. So, classes operate in a different way. The floor is given to the student first and the teacher afterwards. This was very interesting, unique. We liked this. And there couldn't be something better than starting a collaboration in Turkey, in Istanbul, in order to establish a center for archaic studies. It started operating in 2015, and through this center, scholarships will be awarded to undergraduate, postgraduate, and PhD students for them to proceed in the research and elaborate on the knowledge gained. If you would allow me, I'd like to mention yet another example here, which is related to the opposite. That is, up until today, we've been speaking about giving students the opportunity to go abroad. There is another partnership with the Institute of International Education, which in effect does the opposite. It connects Greek scholars and academics that live and work abroad, especially in the US and Canada, with Greek universities. Therefore, it enhances tertiary education, university education. The new period will start. 40 scholars will come to Greece, will spend a period of time here in order to help both professors and students in different domains. This is something that mobilizes Greeks living abroad on one hand, and on the other hand, it truly enhances and supports the personnel students of universities, because we have this traveling of knowledge from abroad to Greece. This is an open meeting, so let me say that on Monday in this venue we'll announce officially this program. Up to now, we have accepted 98 applications from Greek universities. There was great interest, and we were surprised. Obviously, the thirst for knowledge doesn't cease, even if times are not very easy. That about covers it. I'm very glad that you made mention to the last grant. It's very important. I'll explain why. Most of the times, communities of Greeks living abroad have unidirectional relations with Greece. What do I mean by that? Most of the times, philanthropic organizations, not for profit, give Greek scientists the opportunity to go abroad and therefore actually proliferate or convey the Greek culture to Greeks living abroad. But here, the effort made is different. It is based on a model which has been applied very successfully already with the communities in Africa, with diaspora communities in Africa. So based on this, we've decided to do something similar in Greece. And this capitalizes on the exceptional human resources that one finds in all these Greek diaspora communities. And at the same time, we are tackling this brain drain phenomenon. That is, everyone has been speaking about the fact there's a brain drain of Greek scientists going abroad. So, in a sense, we've been trying to mitigate this phenomenon, giving these people the opportunity to come back for a particular period of time to contribute something in collaboration with Greek universities. I'll stay with you. I'd like to talk about another specific effort which started through the Recharging the Youth initiative, that is trying to tackle youth unemployment. We tried to understand what were the places we needed to approach and the domains we needed to focus on. There were not many opportunities for one to do something, so we concluded that one of the domains is the domain of agriculture. So we proceeded and did what we do quite often. We organized partnerships connecting different agencies, bodies, organizations from Greece and abroad. The New Jersey Radcliffe University, the Agricultural University of Athens, and the American Agricultural School that has a long tradition. And the first part of the grant for this Recharging the Youth initiative was related to mapping this domain. That this was an analytical, systematic study with more than 7,000 pages that fully documented the domain and identified the needs in order to make targeted interventions. Would you like to elaborate on that? Perhaps? That is, talk about the effort and our way of operation. We as a foundation want to connect bodies, organizations, and cement partnerships to facilitate know-how exchange.
Well, when we started discussing this idea, we tried to rush things. This is not good. We try to avoid rushing things, but we felt like rushing. Why? Because especially with regard to unemployment, and even more so with regard to youth unemployment, there is a huge problem. However, we ought to do our research first. According to research, we realized that we lack the mapping background. You cannot engage, you cannot operate without knowing the needs. And before, of course, you make a decision to finance this or that. So against this backdrop, we started the mapping exercise. The mapping took about 1 year. The objective was to see where in the agri-food sector Greece has a genuine comparative advantage, where you should invest in order to create jobs, which is our main concern, of course, and in order to contribute to growth, to exports, to food processing, the food processing industry, and so on. So that was the initial concept. The question was how? Well, we decided to work with the experts in the field. There were, and there are quite a few of them in Greece, but no one had ever tried to bring them together. So we talked to a university with long experience, the Rutgers University in New Jersey. However, of course, this could not move forward without the Greek partners who have the local knowledge. That's how the partnership came up with between one foreign university, the Agronomic University of Athens, and the American Agricultural School of Thessaloniki. We know very well how valuable can be this exchange of know-how. Thanks to this partnership, we end up with 20 studies of a total of more than 7,000 pages, alternative tourism, bee keeping, essences, herbal plants, etc., etc. These are sectors where we can help. Of course, once again, you have to educate and train young farmers, for example, who are returning to their homes in the Greek province and who are trying to make the first steps. Sometimes they don't know how. We started, therefore, with instigating best practices to younger and older alike in order to enhance and improve the traditional methods. Concerning jobs, from our research, we realized that in the processing industry, one new job can lead to the creation of another 2.8 along the production chain. So you realize the multiplier effect if, of course, we do our homework properly. Thank you. By the way, there is a brochure providing you with the summary of the studies, of the research. You can find it at the exit. Please take some time. Well, Anna Maria, Metropolitan Museum, New York, Modern Art Museum, Benaki Museum, 3 reputable agencies, organizations worldwide, interventions with exhibitions, scholarships, accessibility to people with disabilities in all these 3 organizations. Some interventions were quite innovative. You have the floor. Tell us more about it.
Well, I'd like to say something related to what Eva mentioned before concerning skill creation for young people and the gaining of experience for young people. So, something else apart from the others I'd like to mention concerns precisely this apprenticeship, which is possible following a grant of the foundation in collaboration with the Modern Art Museum in New York for Greek people that are starting their career. They've just graduated from university, and these people will be able to train there for a year in this museum and so work together with top professionals working there permanently. And of course, they gain different experience working in different departments of the museum, with experience, with travels, lectures, and anything related to the presence there. All 3 museums are in fact both MoMA and Metropolitan and the Benakian in our country is one of the most important museums. So they are top organizations, and the Benakian is a museum that has focused on many aspects of our history, and the history of other cultures. So the rationale we followed regarded how it is that we can bring art, culture, and history nearer people. How you can open it up to people or make it more accessible by them, give the opportunity to people who otherwise wouldn't be able to have access. And it's translated differently for all three institutions. Our partnership with Benaki regarded the possibility of visiting 1 day per week for free. This increased the visitability of the museum. So based on this collaboration with Benaki, we started examining similar programs abroad. We started with Benaki, and this year there was a donation approved in collaboration with the Frick's Museum in New York. It functions in the same way. That is, every Friday, people are given the opportunity to visit the museum for free. This is very important because most of the times, entrance fees $25 a person. That is, if a family wishes to visit this museum, they need to spend $100. So it's important to give them the opportunity for free. And everything started with our collaboration with Benaki. It's not only that you open access, give everybody access, you emphasize on equal terms. We have, therefore, the establishment of programs or actions that are adapted to possibilities or needs of special populations. This could regard programs targeting people with visual impairments or blindness, as it happens in MoMA, Alzheimer patients, or people with cognitive difficulties and impairments. It could be a program especially targeting war veterans, teenagers, children, and to take it a step further, it regards how you can make this more attractive and more interactive, and perhaps no, I think attractive covers it. You make things more attractive to encourage more people to come. So you may be admiring a Roman statue, for instance, walking by it, and by the statue there is video art shown, or you walk in the Renaissance room and all of a sudden you see that there's a mini theatrical play that was inspired by a theatrical play staged nearby. So this gives you another experience, that is, walking about the museum. You have different experiences. You become more attracted. Perhaps you can connect in a better way. It increases your curiosity to discover, to see things, to visit the museum again. And this is something that is facilitated, especially with the programs in MoMA and Metropolitan. Thank you very much indeed. Increasing accessibility for people with a physical disability is very important. The foundation has a reputation, that is, people come to us, especially asking us to support such programs, and it truly regards the essence of these organizations as public spaces and venues open to everyone indiscriminately. Ioannia, prevention, insecurity in food, a very important grant that concerned us. What do? Do we substitute the state for the food crisis that has affected schools? Should be tackled by the state. Sustainability. How long can a foundation, or should a foundation, go on supporting such efforts? Sustainability is a key issue.
Let me start by describing the program. Well, Mr. Protopsalto went back to 2008. I'll go back to 2012. It was that was the real onset of the crisis. In the press at the time, we heard for the first time about children starving in schools, fainting from hunger, etc., for the first time in Greek history. Well, we felt we should react swiftly. Our program is about subsistence and proper diet. It took us just 2 months to set up the program. The program addresses students in public school in state-owned schools in vulnerable areas. This is, in a nutshell, this is the title of the program. Well, we offer a small lunch, accounting for 20 to 40% of daily dietary needs of young children. And at the same time, we promote a healthy diet for participating children. We funded the program exclusively for 4 years. And then we started wondering, how do we go about that? Do we continue or not? As Mr. Drakopoulos said, we act in a complementary capacity. So we were quite right to ask ourselves, what are we doing here? Because, sometimes we launch a program without promoting or showcasing the program. So in this case, we tried to adopt a matching funds approach. That is, we decided to match the funds offered by other donors for the purpose of this particular program. In the last 2 years, our donation in the context of this program is based on the matching funds approach. We have promoted the program, we have showcased the program. Well, of course, we keep financing, but we raised extensive awareness about the dietary needs of children in schools. What about the sustainability of the program, or the economic viability in this particular case? This approach helped us a lot. This approach made the program viable. When we had to evaluate the program, we received a lot of advice from similar agencies in Europe, in America, etc. Because procedure and the logistics is very important. You mentioned earlier the word arrogance, and this is a very important word. Let me say this. It was very important for us to show respect for those in need. It was not just about a lunch, it was about a healthy lunch. In dignity, and this is the word I would like to stress here. What we offered was offered in dignity. Yes, indeed, this action was implemented in Greece. However, lack of food security is a problem in so many countries all over the world. We have worked with the City Harvest Food Bank in New York. We have done similar things in other countries. Would you like to say a few words about New York or other countries? Countries or regions that face the same or similar problems? Well, these agencies are real leaders in food aid. What I would like to say very briefly is this, that we have engaged in long-term partnerships with both agencies. They're great agencies, admirable work. So we have supported interventions in areas where these agencies would not find financing so easily. Equipment, financing, strategy, etc. For us it was easier. We will not only support the very popular programs that can find financing more easily. So we went for a more marginal program. And we have supported for example, operating expenditure of other programs in Greece. We will support an agency and its core expenditure only when these agencies face extreme difficulties. Now, operating expenditure, this is a very important issue. This shows how flexible we are and how swiftly we can respond to needs. This is, of course, a very long discussion internationally. What should we support? Can we finance the operating expenditure, the overhead of this or that organization? Well, in some cases, if you don't do it, then these agencies will collapse. So sometimes operating expenditure, the overhead, if you will, financing overhead is critical. Without financing overhead, these agencies would have collapsed. So when an agency is unique, is the only agency that can help, then we should help it in all possible respects. So this is another demonstration of our flexibility.
Joanna, I'll come back to you. Regeneration on progress. This is an important effort to help populations living in remote places of Greece. In this case, we had the idea of particular people, Takis Krouvaris, but there was no organization or agency. In this particular case, the foundation proceeded to the support needed in order to establish the body needed. Would you like to say a few words about it? Yes, possibly this partnership signifies the coming of age of the foundation, its maturity. On one hand, we have knowledgeable scientists in the fields of health and sports, and on the other hand, we have our experience in implementing grants. So we have an intermarriage, and together, in unison, we plan and design programs that promote health and sports culture. The target group is adults and children living in remote areas of Greece and in some very remote Greek islands. Let me mention 6 programs running. We have 2 mobile medical units, 2 very well-equipped medical units, mobile ones, that offer high-quality free medical care to people, and the services are rendered by very knowledgeable scientific personnel in remote islands and places in the outermost regions of Greece. We have the summer trails. This is an educational program and a sports program that addresses children and teenagers aged 5 to 16, and the uppermost goal of the program is to enhance a sports spirit and a sports culture among these children through particular programs. Most of the times, children residing in these remote areas are not given the opportunity to access such programs. We also have a new program which is being planned as we speak. It regards the mobile sports unit. As I said, it's a new project, a new action which targets the support of athletes, specializing and emphasizing on young athletes and children. As Dimitris Protopsaltou said before, the regeneration and progress has been aided by the SNFCC. We implement over 90% of the sports programs in the cultural center, always in collaboration. There is a general collaboration in what concerns programming of activities. I believe that this is something that the foundation had to try as it grows more mature, and of course the results will be evident over time. Let me say something about the mobile medical units, which is important. We had the National School of Public Health that finished their evaluation. Now we have the interior evaluation in progress. We want to examine things in order to see how it is that we can proceed with the program and perhaps extend it or expand it. That about covers it with the regeneration in progress. Would you like me to add something else? No, not at the moment. A Centre for Gifted and Talented Children. Collaboration between the University of Johns Hopkins that started this program 35 years ago with a huge success all over the world, and the Anatolia College. Very encouraging results I would say. In my opinion, what's interesting here is not only the opportunity given to gifted children to have opportunities proportionate to their skills. We also took into account seriously the fact that in Greece, of the financial crisis of this day and age, families cannot easily tackle financial expenses for teaching. So a major part of the grant regards scholarship given to people who can't afford to pay the money needed for education.
We are quite lucky to be in contact with best practices and know-how from abroad. But what is also important, even more important, is that know-how by itself cannot bring about the desired results. This means that we should adapt this know-how to Greek reality. In this, we are also lucky because we have engaged in partnerships between reputable agencies abroad with equally reputable agencies in Greece. So this Center for Gifted and Talented Children is a great example of how these partnerships can work and bring about admirable results and benefits for our society. We started in 2012. That is when we were still fathoming the possibilities, whether it would be even possible to create such a center in Greece. You see, in crisis doesn't really tally so much with the Center for Talented Gifted Children. However, we believed in this center. We said to ourselves, yes, this is the time when you have to support these children in Greece. We started with a feasibility study with the Johns Hopkins. They selected the Anatolia College in Thessaloniki, and just a few months later, the partnership between the two universities led to the center. The first donation, our first donation, was used to finance the operation of the center during its first 2 years, and another part was for scholarships. This year, we only financed scholarships. So 3 years down the road, the results are impressive. Not only we filled a gap in the Greek educational system, in other words, we provided support to gifted children. That was one thing. The other thing is that 3 years down the road, this program, this model, has become viable, sustainable. The center stands on its both feet. It found more supporters. It raised their monies here and there, and thus they were able to provide more services and more programs. Scholarships are very important. It might be considered as a luxury in the time of crisis, but we give the opportunity to parents to do something more for their children. That was the objective from the outset. We continue, as I said, to support scholarships in order to give as many opportunities as possible to gifted children. We share this objective. We are so happy and proud with this donation. It would be a great shame to leave children out, children who are gifted enough to participate in the program. So we adapted the program to the crisis. We decided to play a social role. Yes, it is also important that the selection of the Greek partner was done by the American University, Johns Hopkins. Yes, there was a lot of research, lots of preparation, lots of negotiations, and well, Anatolia is a prominent school in Greece. Panos, you are the lucky one. The Agios Nikolaos, the St. Nicholas Church at Ground Zero in New York. National Museum of Afro-American Culture and History, Washington, Parkway Theater in Baltimore, Governor's Island, FDR Memorial, New York. Well, 5 important but so different donations. What is the link between these 5? Why did we decide to finance this initiative? What is in common?
Well, there are things in common for sure. And at a first glance, the common aspect regards the significance of these places as places of memory, shaping or defining the identity of different communities. For example, St. Nicholas Church was a very important place nearby the Twin Towers. Unfortunately, it was destroyed after the terrorist attacks. And the contribution of the foundation, in conjunction with other bodies and organizations, for the recreation, the rebuilding of this worshipping ground, which had been very important not only for the Greek Orthodox community of the area, but of entire America, and for the people that actually used this area and frequented it, proved to be something very important. The fact that it will constitute a pivotal point in the future landscaping of the place where the Twin Towers used to be speaks volumes about how important this church was for the history of New York and the Greek community living there. Afro-American History American Museum. The goal for this museum is to convey an integrated history of America, examining it through a different perspective. In the decision of the foundation to support this endeavor, it proved important that there was a grant and a donation of a lot of items made by simple people, by private individuals, and there was also the support of the community whose story the museum wanted to recount. When we see initiatives that are supported by people on communities relevant to them, then we as a foundation understand that there is value to this initiative and therefore we need to support it. Of course, the Afro-American history is not a history that is limited only in the US. It is a story which has always had global repercussions, the history of slavery, the history of success of these people in the artistic domain and other domains. And by supporting this endeavor, we didn't merely facilitate the narrative of a community redefining the history of land, that of the US, but we supported the history of a community which has characterized a great part of global culture. One would say that our support for the Four Freedoms Park in New York is similar and different at the same time. It's a memory space, for sure. Roosevelt was born and raised in New York, and therefore this facilitates remembrance for New Yorkers. It helps them remember the important personality of Roosevelt and his important contribution through his work in issues of a global reflection. The speech given there in 1941, freedom of speech and expression, freedom of worship, a freedom from fear, are, to a great extent, values that govern the work that we do as a foundation, and they characterize the initiatives that we want to support. Let me point out here that Louis Kahn designed the park. He's one of the greatest architects of the 21st century, and he was a professor of Piano, says the moderator. But this was the icing to the cake, to say it figuratively. What we focused on related to the message conveyed, to the love of the local community, for the creation of the space that has a global impact, and for the support of an educational program that will further convey the message of the Four Freedoms speech delivered by Franklin Roosevelt all over the world. When we have everything combined, then we have a fertile ground to support such projects. You mentioned Parkway Theater, if I'm not mistaken. Here we have the redefinition of land use. There didn't used to be a park there, but now there is one. In Parkway Theatre, there was a cinema that had opened in 1915, if I'm not mistaken. It stopped operating in 1978. Many people tried to redefine the space, to use it, with little success. Partly because of the crisis that brought to the surface latent problems that existed there for a long time, the local community was mobilized, and it decided to collaborate with the Johns Hopkins University, with the Maryland Film Festival, and the Maryland Arts Center. These three bodies worked in unison, and they decided that they wanted to use a redefined space for Parkway Theatre. The venue per se had a very important architectural value, and the foundation, with its support, managed to create a space that will be operating permanently, because this will be the central point of work for people, for students at the Johns Hopkins Film School. And it is a very specific and targeted effort for urban regeneration, with every positive aspect that can be brought about, and all cultural gains. And in conclusion, let me mention the just approved grant of the foundation concerning work related to the reoperation of Apollon and Attikon cinemas. They used to be very important for the life of the city, and as it so happens with our donation for Parkway Theatre, this too will be an intervention that we do hope will breathe new life in a place of Athens that used to be alive, and now it's going through a difficult period. Thank you very much. Here I'd like to say very fast that our partnership with the Johns Hopkins University has been a long one and has been multi-dimensional, and it truly reflects our willingness to work with organizations that transcend their initial role. So the university is not only an educational organization. Realizing the role it plays in an undervalued area, we can see that it will contribute to the overall upgrading of this area. So our donations are led towards different directions that enhance the best of the university. We have scholarships, we have support for medical programs, we have the Bioethics Institute, which is truly innovative, both American and global affairs, and we've supported it to an extensive extent. The Parkway Theatre, we have the Talented and Gifted Youth Program, and we also have the participation of Hopkins in the Linear Accelerator Evaluation Program. Again, this is indicative of the big grants of the foundation. The same thing applies to the Rockefeller University. It's a very important research organization. The foundation has had a long-term collaboration with the university for new research programs and the creation of new laboratories. And we donated 75 million, and 75 was given by David Rockefeller in order to extend the campus. And we are talking about one of the most important research centers in the world in biology and medicine. Based on the collaboration we had had in the past, we proceeded to these very big donations. Now I'd like to make mention to something very different. In effect, I'd like to lead us smoothly towards the end of today's discussion, because I suppose we can speak for hours, but we shan't. We have a lot of big donations that are easy to proceed to because we know the organizations. On the other hand, we have more difficult grants channeled to smaller organizations. They concern as they bring to the surface new proposals, models, programs. I'll mention two: Theatre of War, very important, and Brooklyn Bell Fund. When they came to us, they were at the very beginning. These ideas had not been developed in the past. There was risk to them, and we made the decision to make the grants. Would you like to say a few words, Mirta, and you talk about these particular grants? Indicatively,
Πιο συναρπαστικές δωρεές που πιστεύω ότι έχουμε κάνει σαν οργανισμός. Και εκτός από το συναρπαστικό της θεματικής της δωρεάς, νομίζω είναι και συναρπαστική διότι δείχνει πολύ καλά τον τρόπο με τον οποίο αντιμετωπίζουμε τις αιτήσεις που δεχόμαστε. Δεχόμαστε πολλές αιτήσεις, μεγάλες και μικρές, αλλά έχουμε υποχρέωση να τις εξετάζουμε με την ίδια προσοχή όλες τους. Έχουμε αυτή την υποχρέωση όχι μόνο προς τους ανθρώπους που μας κάνουν την αίτηση και έχουν αφιερώσει χρόνο και πιστεύουν ότι έχουν βρει ένα τομέα στον οποίο η βοήθεια στον οποίο τομέα θα έχει κοινωνικό αντίκτυπο, αλλά έχουμε υποχρέωση να το κάνουμε και σαν άνθρωποι που υπηρετούμε την αποστολή του Ιδρύματος για Κοινωνικό Καλό. Πολλές φορές σε μικρές αιτήσεις υπάρχει μεγάλο κοινωνικό όφελος. Το εργαλείο μας για να μπορούμε να αντιμετωπίζουμε και τις μεγάλες και τις μικρές δωρεές με την ίδια προσοχή είναι οι διαδικασίες μας. Πολλές φορές η αλήθεια είναι ότι κάποιοι πιθανοί δωρεδόχοι μας ίσως τις βρίσκουν γραφειοκρατικές. Δεν είναι γραφειοκρατικές, είναι συστηματικές, έτσι ώστε να μπορούμε να διασφαλίζουμε ότι αφιερώνουμε τον χρόνο και την προσοχή που πρέπει να αφιερώνουμε σε όλες μας τις αιτήσεις και να διασφαλίζουμε ότι όλες οι αιτήσεις αντιμετωπίζονται με ένα δίκαιο τρόπο. Αυτό ακριβώς το εργαλείο των διαδικασιών μας είναι αυτό που μας επέτρεψε να βάλουμε το κάτι παραπάνω και να αναγνωρίσουμε τη σημασία του εγχειρήματος Theatre of War, θέατρο του πολέμου. Το Theatre of War είναι μια συναρπαστική ιδέα, βασισμένη στην δουλειά του Jonathan Say, ο οποίος βρήκε ένα παραλληλισμό μεταξύ της αρχαίας ελληνικής τραγωδίας και των εμπειριών πολλών βετεράνων πολέμου στο Βιετνάμ. Συστήθηκε μια ομάδα σκοπός της οποίας ήταν η ανάγνωση αρχαιοελληνικών κειμένων σε βετεράνους πολέμου, έτσι ώστε να μπορέσουν μέσα από αυτή τη διαδικασία να ξεπεράσουν κάποιες τραυματικές εμπειρίες που κατά πάσα πιθανότητα είχαν από τον πρώτερο βίο τους. Αυτό σαν ιδέα είναι λίγο τρελή. Δηλαδή το ότι κάποιος βετεράνος του Αμερικανικού στρατού, που παραφράζοντας στίχο του Bob Dylan από το Subterranean Homesick Blues, πηγαίνει στο στρατό επειδή έχουν αποτύχει όλα τα άλλα, ο οποίος δεν έχει καμία κλασική παιδεία, θα βρει κάποιο ενδιαφέρον σε αρχαιοελληνικά κείμενα του Εσχύλου και του Σοφοκλή για να ξεπεράσει τραύματα τα οποία ενδεχομένως δεν έχει μοιραστεί ούτε με την ίδια του την οικογένεια. Αυτό σαν ιδέα είναι συναρπαστική, αν και λίγο τρελή. Όμως είχαμε απέναντί μας έναν πιθανό συνεργάτη, ο οποίος έδειχνε δέσμευση, είχε δοκιμάσει το πρόγραμμα σε πολύ μικρό βαθμό, με ιδία μέσα, έδειχνε συνέπεια, εξαιρετική γνώση του αντικειμένου, όραμα, ακόμα και σήμερα που μιλάμε μαζί με τον οργανισμό, ξέρουν ποιο είναι το επόμενο βήμα στο οποίο θέλουν να πάνε, συνεργασία. Δεν ήρθε αυτή η πρόταση στο Ίδρυμα εν κενό. Είχε υπάρξει ήδη συζήτηση με τον Οργανισμό Βετεράνων του Αμερικανικού Στρατού και ήρθαν μαζί σε εμάς με μια συγκροτημένη πρόταση.
The US veterans. So we developed this program. We decided to support. We achieved ownership among the actors, Hollywood actors such as Lily Taylor and others, who engaged with the program, reading out texts. So this was supposed to take 60 minutes on average. However, we realized that it could take up to 3 or 4 hours, thanks to the discussion that was the result of the reading out of the texts. It's not just about trauma or human pain. It concerns everyone, not just veterans. It concerns everyone who has had the experience of war. And actually, it is a reading of the texts. A small donation, but very, very important and very innovative. Yes, and it is at the same time a donation promoting Greek culture. The tragedies are not necessarily known to everyone. Some of them are not played very often. Raging Hercules is one of the tragedies that I attended the other day in New York. There was an audience of 500 people. Or Antigone in Ferguson, another performance that was meant to launch dialogue with the Afro-American community after the well-known assassinations recently in the area. Now, another donation, Bail Fund. There's another example of an organization that we were lucky to support in its first steps. So the methods, the way, the approach of this agency made us, convinced us that we should help. Of course, it took some more effort on both sides. Can you explain what do you mean by additional effort? Well, bail, this is paying, keeping people out of prison on bail. This is a very controversial issue. We realized how controversial it was after lots of discussion. So who do we support? So we were lucky to support this effort in its first steps. Then the agency has taken off. They raised awareness. They are now very well known. They do great work. Schedia is a similar agency in Greece. Very briefly, Schedia Raft in Greek. We supported them when they were starting. We gave them wings, and now they are independent. So they came to us with a concept, just a concept, but we appreciated the idea. They help homeless or poor people, unemployed, to find a job by selling, that is, this street magazine, as they call it. So they provide real relief to these people in a very creative way. We work together thanks to our donation. The plan has succeeded, and we are proud that we have supported them in their first steps, as I said. Well, thank you very much. I think we have run out of time. I'm sure there are questions from the audience. If I may ask the President, Mr. Drakopoulos, to come to the panel, and Dimitris Protopsaltou, so that they can take questions from our audience, if there are any. Once again, thank you very much for coming. It took a long time, but by the way, our website is our face, our public face. You can read in great detail about each and every initiative of the Center and the Foundation. Thank you for coming again.
Ερωτήσεις.
Are there any questions? Okay, who is the question addressed to? Speaker of the microphone, apologies, no sound in the booth. I represent the National Herald of New York. Thank you very much. You said that the evaluation of grants has elements of science and art to it. The scientific part I understand, but would you care to elaborate on the art part? Another question, apart from the requests submitted to you as a foundation, do you pay attention to society, therefore thinking of some requests on your own? Andreas, would you like to answer the question regarding art? Look, as I said at the beginning, we have to do with people and with society. We can't evaluate everything based on concrete rules. Sometimes, if you strictly examine the rules, you ignore the creativity of people, the effort made of people in the field or on the spot. And this is precisely what I meant when I said that grant making is not only a science, but an art as well. If we follow the evaluation rules very strictly, and we do this most of the times, but if we do it all the time, some of the grants if we had always done this, would never have been given. But we actually listen to reality. We see how society responds to particular grants, and we proceed accordingly. That is why I made this distinction. The other question you raised is equally as important. Yes, the evolution of the foundation after 20 years of operation has led to a point at which we do not only accept requests submitted, but we generate things from the inside because we've become more aware of the domain and the field. We proceed to initiatives in conjunction with the organizations and bodies that are out there. We are not the ones implementing and applying the grants. It is these agencies and bodies that do it, and without them nothing can happen. But we also create our own programs. And let me say something about initiatives. The Recharge the Youth initiative would never have been taken if we hadn't been listening to what happens in society. So we always work with others. Tanya Mandouvalou from the Athenian News Agency. The question and sub-question concerns the linear accelerators. The first question, in what hospitals will the additional 3 linear accelerators be installed? Because you said that there were 7 and now they are 10. And the second question, when do you expect all 10 linear accelerators to be fully functional? Especially vis-à-vis the provisions of the line ministry concerning the procurement of equipment. The 3 additional ones will be installed in Theogenion, Salonika, northern Greece, at Dikon Hospital here in Athens, and Heraklion in the south of Crete. Practically, both existing pieces of equipment will be substituted. So the department for the next 15 years will have at its disposal modern and reliable equipment. As we said, implementation will start shortly, next week already. We need about 3 to 5 months for the full installation of every such piece of equipment and facility, and for licensing from the Committee of Energy. The overall program will take about 10 months. Because in the case of substituting both stations, we need an interim period of time so as not to destabilize radiation treatment throughout the country. Lena Pagoni from Eleftheroptipia, the past newspaper, now Huffington Post. I'd like to emphasize on the fact that your work is praiseworthy. It has made us feel that we are not in Greece in this time of crisis. Another question for the foundation. Why did you decide to hand over its operation to the state? The state is falling apart, and so far as we're concerned, there seems to be a self-destructive error. Not the foundation, I suppose, the cultural center you're talking about. Well, I feel that I'm repeating myself. The cultural center has the National Library and the Greek opera. We are talking about 2 pillars of the Greek state and Greece. First of all, we do not know how to run the National Opera or the library for that matter, nor should we do this. This is the task of the state. We helped, we constructed it, we'll be close by to offer support all the time. For me, an answer is easy. We did this because this is what should be done. This is a project that belongs to the state, the public, and Greek society. And society needs to understand that this does not belong to the government. It belongs to the people. The government is there in order to serve the people. We need an entirely different press conference to elaborate on that. The issue is that with everybody's help and collaboration, miracles can be worked. We started in 2007. We've worked with 4 different administrations, governments that is, right ones, left ones, we've seen it all. Always existed a common denominator, that we had excellent collaboration with everyone from all administrations. This is admirable because everybody truly understood that there was no hidden agenda. There was a common denominator trying to make it happen, make this project happen, belonging to the Greek society. That's why we are handing it over to the Greek state. But when we talk about Greek state, we talk about the society. And this is a bet that needs to be won by our society. The bet on the part of the Stavros Niarchos Foundation has been won. We did our bet. And that's it. Yes, hello, my name is Eleni Mercati. I'd like to ask a question about the Gianni Caresi Foundation. If I'm not mistaken, years ago, and at the beginning, when the foundation had started its operation, you had made a donation. A few days ago, I watched a wonderful video on the life of Gianni Caresi, and they talked about the foundation and how it started, or how it all started. It started with two women who knew how to relieve pain, and it mentioned how many thousands of people found relief. And I'd like to know. The video ended about the Gianni Caresi Foundation having to cope without money. So are you planning on making another donation? This is my question. Look, for reasons of full transparency, the question was asked by my mother, and I didn't really know that she would be here to ask this question to begin with. Within the framework of our grants to tackle the crisis, we supported the organization regarding overhead costs for 2 years, if this is an answer. That is, we helped this foundation extend its operations for another 2 years. The donation has ended. It ended in fact, it ended in 2013 or 14, if I'm not mistaken. If they so wish, they can apply, submit an application. We examine everything. We are deluged with applications. Yes, but when I heard about the thousands of people that found relief, I think it's worth your while. That about covers it. Those who have felt the pain of this problem will understand. Look, we have an open procedure for applications. Anyone so wishing can turn to us for help. This doesn't mean that we'll help 100%. People go through a regular evaluation procedure, but it goes without saying that anyone can make an application. It will be taken into account, but under full meritocracy, even though this is the ardent desire of my mother, it will go through the regular procedure of evaluation.
I'm Irini Nikolopoulou, a veteran like my friend Pagoni. Anyway, allow me to start by reminding that I've been a newscaster for 27 years, not for the last 6 years, but I would like to go back to say the news today and to announce all these great things happening here today, saying this is Greece. Well, Mr. Drakopoulos, you said we will help the Greek state with the budget. Well, our common experience, everybody's experience here, makes us rather suspicious. Not to you, but vis-a-vis the Greek state. Will they cope or not, for obvious reasons? So, what is this budget you are basically promising to the Greek state for running the center? Drakopoulos, look, we have engaged in various discussions. Everything is still open. Every June, we organize this Forum for Philanthropy with the participation of many philanthropic organizations from abroad and Greece. This will take place again in June, 18th to the 25th of June. In accordance to the contract, the premises are offered to the foundation to organize the conference. We'll keep organizing this. This keeps the center also alive. Second, we have agreed to help with the budget of the SA company, that is the company who is the owner of of these buildings. The numbers have not been agreed yet. We have constructive discussions. It might sound paradoxical, unexpected, but we have excellent cooperation with this government and the previous governments. Well, there will always be suspicion. This is not bad at all. This might be also useful. However, there is still hope, you know. There is still hope. We will keep helping for as long as our help is wanted. The speaker has no microphone. Well, could we hope that the foundation could help for the Stavros Niarchos paintings collection to come back to Greece? But these paintings do not belong to the foundation. They are personal ownership of the family. They belong to the family. So this is outside of our control. Well, there is, of course, always hope, as I said earlier. Yoros Papapavlou, Vice President of the Association of Friends of the Sea and the Islands. You have made a donation to our association. We teach classical music in 6 islands of our country. Well, I was taken aback by the so many great things happening here. Thank you for the presentation. My concern is this, and please assure me, I hope that after the transfer to the Hellenic Republic, to the Greek state, nothing will change in the foundation. Well, look, these are 2 different things. Mr. Protopsaltou, by the way, is the general manager of the SA company. And this is just part of the discussions we have with the government as we speak, and the previous discussions with the previous governments. Our motto is, if the center operates properly, we will be on our side. And this means respect for the people and the procedures that we have launched and engaged. So this is a very important prerequisite. It's a condition for our support. And I can tell you there is positive response. So that is why we keep paying for the various events every month. So as long as things are operated properly, we will keep paying for various events, among other things, which is at the heart of this center, I mean the events. And then of course we have the library and the opera, who will provide, I'm sure, great help. Good afternoon, everybody from Fortune, Greece. We've met. You said something about high-risk donations, small donations, and you said we need vision, a concrete proposal, and frankness and transparency. Are these the rules, if you will, for future requesters? Yes, of course, these are the main things we're looking out for. This is what we basically take into account. Nikos Gargalakos from Greek province, a newspaper. What about your program concerning new generation for new farming, new agriculture? You said something about 20 studies. How can you disseminate? Do you plan to disseminate this among the farming communities? Very good question. As I said, we cannot just give out 7,000 pages of studies. The brochure will give you a summary of the studies, but there are the next steps. Let me explain. We're now discussing with the three organizations who carried out the studies in order to take the next step. Don't forget, this is part of the initiative, an initiative against unemployment, youth unemployment, which means that we are now at the stage of discussing how we're going to utilize the studies in order to curb unemployment. So we're still discussing the next steps. Part of the focus, as I said, is unemployment and creating jobs in farming for young people. Some of these programs are innovative, and we're now in the process of evaluating proposals. It's a complex issue, but rest assured, we are moving forward quite fast. And we are still exploring the possibility of uploading the studies on our website. You watch this space. Hi, Gyros Pisakis, President of the Greek Society of Therapeutic Oncology. You cannot imagine how important is your contribution to radiology. You are contributing to changing 40% of the equipment in Greece. You know, cancer is the first cause of death in this country, exceeding almost cardiovascular diseases. And 60% of our patients will need a radiological therapy. You know the problem, and thank you for coming in to cover this huge need. You are substituting yourselves, yes, in the Greek state. And thank you. It's not just about lives, but about quality of life. This is a huge contribution. Maybe most of you do not realize. You know, surgery has changed. The way surgery has changed, in the same way, cancer treatment has also changed. So the equipment you help us to buy is what will provide quality of life and save lives in Greece. I would like to stress this time and time again. This is without precedent. Cancer therapy in Greece will be totally different in 3 years. In the past, when I was a student, we had two schools, the American and the UK therapy. The English stopped providing radio treatment. So we are quite lucky to benefit from your contribution, your funding in radiation treatment. Thank you. This is an unprecedented donation. Thank you so much. Thank you. Something which is probably breaking news. We are all familiar with the problems of the Greek ambulances. And someone asked me, are you going to try to help with that? Well, we'll see if we can buy and offer new ambulances to the Greek state, because it is a shame for the modern state not to have enough ambulances, especially during the crisis. The lady or the gentleman over there. I'm Zoe Ramatoglou from the Association of Cancer Patients. You have financed us. I did not intend to take the floor, but after Mr. Pisakis intervened, let me raise another issue, another problem for us. These are the hospices for patients in the end stage. We try to get in touch with the government authorities, but we're not heeded. Well, it's an opportunity for us today, now that so many agencies are present here. Well, let's try to set up a hospice in Greece. The situation is impossible. You know what is the end of these patients? They're just thrown out of hospitals because they need the bed. The patient, after the first complications, will be returned to the hospital and he will simply die there in misery after so many problems for the family. This is how things happen in Greece. I can tell you from my own experience. So if you can help, if anyone can help in this direction, please do help us. It's about human lives. Thank you.
Well, what you are saying is a coincidence. The cultural center, started in this way, with such ideas. But the same thing happened with the National Opera and how we started working about it. We'll look into it promptly. We just need an agency or a body to collaborate with in order to implement. But this is something which is top of the list for us. Let me add something to this. This is a problem that has concerned us a lot abroad. We have the know-how and we have partners with whom we can work in order to offer something similar to our country. That about covers it. Let me add that a number of hospitals and clinics have closed down. That is, end-stage centers need a few people, personnel. They need a lot of nurses, but they need a few doctors, so the cost is not exorbitant. I just believe that nobody has paid attention. Families that have a cancer patient go through an ordeal on their own. And I'm speaking in full consciousness because I see this every day in our association. Yes, this is precisely what I said. I suppose that this will belong to the Greek state, or this pertains to the Greek state. It's up to the line Ministry of Health. It's not a matter of money, because if it was up to us, we would have done things. But as I said before, we need to stop at a certain point. We can't substitute the state. We just contribute and we just complement the state. If we find the competent agency or body, we'd be very glad to help. Yes, thank you. I'm a rector of the School of Fine Arts. My name is Charalambos. I know how difficult sometimes, I know that sometimes it's difficult to hear praises all the time, but they are due. But on behalf of the School of Fine Arts, I would like to thank you for the help that you've given us with our library, which will be finishing soon. So, on behalf of us all, thank you very much. Thank you too. Good morning, my name is Yorgos Kaptis. I am a former general director of the Olympic Stadium complex. I'd like to talk about sports. In the complex, in the Olympic Stadium complex, there are two activities that the foundation had been interested in the past. One concerns doping and anti-doping control, and the second one regards the National Center for Sports Research. With an older initiative of yours, you tried to give it new life in collaboration with the Polyclinic Hospital. The first one, anti-doping, is losing value as time goes by, and perhaps the water certification will be lost shortly. Therefore, we won't be able to have anti-doping tests performed in Greece because of lack of equipment, personnel, and resources. Number two, regarding the center, a good effort had been made in the past, but it stopped at a certain moment. I'd like your thoughts on that. Well, I'd like to call Mr. Zervakis because Mr. Zervakis has focused on this subject. Well, indeed, we had looked into that particular issue. I can't see you, so as to look at you. Now I see you. Well, indeed, we had looked into it in conjunction with the Line Ministry and with the National Center for Research. We had discussions, but they were not completed, as Mr. Drakopoulos said, and all my colleagues said. We do not implement our actions on our own. We need partners. When we see that the partner can move no longer or can't move forward, we stop. And we wait for the next opportunity to intervene. Now, regarding the doping issue, we didn't look into it. Nobody came to us. We don't have knowledge to expedite things on our own, and we didn't expedite them. Now, regarding the research center, through the department, which is now created within the framework of regeneration and progress, will enter into this domain, not as a state body, but through a private body in order to support sports generally and elite sports in particular. We are doing this with this particular body, agency, because there is fruitful collaboration. We couldn't expedite on the other level you mentioned. This doesn't mean that later this can't evolve to a national project. It remains to be seen. Thank you. I'm representing the parents of children with cancer, the flame, FLOG as we call it in Greece. We have received your support many a time. The only thing I'd like to say is that we've never had a greater benefactor in this country than the Niarchos Foundation, which has exhibited seriousness, responsibility and respect to the body that it helps and has offered so much. Profuse thanks. I think that even my thank you is not enough. I wish you all the best. May you be well always. Okay, another 2 questions. And thank you too for thanking us. If we have no other questions, then thank you very much, all of you. Thank you for honoring us with your presence here. And let me repeat for yet another time that without the agencies or organizations that are recipients of our grants, we have no power whatsoever. You are our strength. Your work is our strength. And for this, we thank you.